Happy Peeps, Suzanna here today for Scale It Down, a collaborative series I do with my friend Simone. We are working in our traveler's notebooks, and this month we are showing you how to use die cuts. I have something that I want to show you about how I ungroup things in Silhouette Studio, so here goes.
So I've opened my cut file from Paige Evans, and I want this to look like a gingerbread house with the village. And I really only want one of these rows. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it, right click, and that brings down this drop box. And I want to ungroup, and by ungrouping you can see how that separated that into two rows. I'm going to click on that top row there, drag it off to the left hand side, and that leaves me just the one row that I want to work with. So then I'm going to click on that, drag that up to the top so that it's easier for me to arrange on my cutting mat. And then I'm going to click it again, and I want to resize this. Because I'm working in a traveler's notebook, I want this to be 8 inches wide at its widest, and I want it to be actually slightly shorter than the 8 inches wide because I don't want it to go off the edge of the page. So you can see from that little line in there, from the gray, from the width of it, you can also read the measurements there, that is just shy of 8 inches. And I'm actually going to go just a slight bit bigger because if I line it up with the outer edge, that works perfectly there. Now, I want this to cut in white, but I want craft underneath it so that I get that gingerbread look. So I want to create an outline. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this box here, which brings me my trace menu. I'm going to hit select trace area, and then it's going to bring me that little cross there. So I want to highlight that whole area. So I'm going to create a rectangle around that and then let go of my mouse. And then I'm going to hit this trace outer edge. And if I drag this away, so this will be cut in white, this will be cut in craft. And so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put the white down the bottom of my mat. I'm going to leave the craft up the top there. Actually, the way my mat cuts, I'm actually going to reverse that, sorry. So I'm going to put the white up the top. And then the craft down the bottom, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut that, and I'm going to get two pieces off of one cut there, and you'll see that in one.
So here are the cut files. I'm going to pull them off my mat and I'm going to put them together. So I'm going to put the white overlay on top of the craft negative or outline in order to create a gingerbread looking strip for the bottom of the page there. I did not do a great job of weeding these. You will see that in the close-ups, but that's okay because some of those little smaller holes are harder to get out, and I could have cleaned it up with a X-Acto knife, but I chose not to. It works perfectly the way that it is. So I'm just using a piece of scratch paper and applying some adhesive, and then I'm going to put that on top of the craft, and it just it looks like gingerbread to me, which is what the theme of this particular layout is. So this particular traveler's notebook is my Elf Antics 2017 traveler's notebook. I did 2 pages of this, or 2 spreads of this, last year or earlier this year. I want to say last year, going into it was the end of 2017, and now I need to finish it. So that's what I'm working on here. So I had this idea that I wanted to use this striped paper, and it was actually going to be a border across the top so that I had a balanced sort of a header and a footer to the page. But then I decided it looked great as a square behind the photo and the die cut as a background. But then I thought the stripes were too busy, so then I tried that green, which was the other pattern paper I had, and I liked the idea of the square. However, the green was too dark, but that variegated pink to red is perfect, and the red and the pink actually pop the picnic table, or it's not a picnic table, sorry, the tablecloth and the elf that are in the photo, because it's kind of dark. The elf came at night, and so many of the pictures were taken not long after his arrival or early in the morning before the kids came down to see him. So I needed something to lighten up the photo. And so I've run everything through my Xyron sticker maker there. It's one of the bigger ones that Xyron sent me. I think I might have won it as a prize. And I'm going to adhere that all down into the book. So remember, when you put things that span 2 pages in a traveler's notebook, that you really don't want to put them kissing, as I call it, so touching each other. You want to leave a little bit of a gap enough in there so that when you open and close the pages, they don't rub into each other and pull the adhesive of the opposite page up. Now, this side, on the right hand side, the die cut is going to overlap the photo, and so I'm going to need to align the photo first to make sure that I've got the placement so that you see enough of the photo and the elements that I wanted of the photo poking through over the cut file there. So that is the foundation of the Traveler's Notebook page. And now it's time to just take some of the bits and pieces from this collection and adorn the spread. This is 'Tis the Season from Ellie's Studio. This is last year's Christmas collection, and I have used a fair amount of it to make cards. You'll see a card coming up at the end of the week, I think. No, at the end of the month, and various other things that I've made using this collection. But I have a lot of the ephemera left over and the tags, which will come in handy for the rest of this album. So that is a scrap piece there that had a bunch of sayings on it, and I really liked the Merry and Bright. I have a couple of the stars that I'm going to put in there and just sort of leave myself a lot of room to journal. I really liked this green tag because I wanted to pull a little bit more green into the layout. However, the problem with that tag is, do you see how it juts out over the right-hand side past the photo? It was really disturbing to me in that it kind of stood out like a sore thumb. So that wasn't going to work, and I was going to have to find something else in there. But I knew I wanted to commit to these other elements, so I'm going to go ahead and adhere them down to the page there. I had to rearrange the star a little bit because I wanted enough of those two arms that were getting covered by the thing to poke out so that you didn't obscure too much of the star and you still had the idea that it was a star there. So I've committed to those. I know I want a third star. I like to have things in trios if I'm going to put more than one of them, and I had to find something because I didn't have any left over. So I knew I wanted something else green. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and create a visual triangle with these green elements through my spread. Merry and Bright ends up being the quote-unquote title of the spread, but really none of them have a title because what's more important are the dates, that each of these will in essence function as a December daily. Each day the elf had antics, and that's what I'm documenting in this traveler's notebook here. So there's a third sort of, I'm going to call it a sloppy star, but I don't mean that in a negative way. And so I wanted a third star, and I did it out of the green there, but then I felt that that third green star created some imbalance in that there were two really dark elements and one light element. So I'm going to replace that in a minute. What I did there was I had a scrap of that stripe. It's kind of like a candy cane stripe, but it's green and white. And I really liked the way that that green popped the picture off of the rest of the background there. So I just cut an L corner to put a photo corner in there. And when I say photo corner, I don't mean it in the traditional sense of the word. I mean it just in that little L there. I have that thing that says fave, but I don't want it as a tag. I don't want that big white glaring spot. So I want to use it sort of just poking out from the photo. I'm going to put it here, but in the final photos, you will see that I end up moving it. Again, it sticks out kind of like that other green tag, like a sore thumb, whereas when I move it so that you can read it horizontally, it makes much more sense. So just now I took out that green star and I replaced it with one of the wood veneer stars that come in the collection, and that looks much better. So the date of this is December 23rd, so today that's going to be the date that goes on there, and I just used some LE Studio stickers to get that done, and then I'm going to move that star and you can see that visual triangle created by those green elements there. So that, my friends, is my Traveler's Notebook spread using die cuts. Be sure to head over to Simone's channel and see what it is that she has to share with you. I'm sure there's something outstanding that she's got to share. Be sure to check back in 2 weeks to see some more die cuts in our Traveler's Notebooks. Thanks for stopping in today. If you don't subscribe, I'd love to have you join me. If you do subscribe, thanks for stopping in. I hope everybody's doing well. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave them in the box down below, and I'll see you soon. Take care.